start recording. Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Today is the 7th RDE Meetup and we have 4 lightning talks that will be recorded. The first one about Niri, window manager, and scrollable window managers in general. The second one about our big project happening during RDE internship, Guile Debugger, presented by Noe. And a couple more lightning talks. The third one is about what? The testing library I'm working on for last a few months, our progress and what we already have and where we are heading, and how it integrates with the work on Guile Debugger. And the fourth talk will be related to the documentation and improvement of the documentation of our projects and some actionable steps that we can do to achieve so. Okay, I hope you can see my screen and you see my screen on the both calls and recordings, and I will share my thoughts about scrollable window managers and my experience of a few weeks using Niri. So the first important thing that I liked about Niri is that it doesn't have a few annoying bugs of sway, and that already makes me feel good about switching to it, but it's much more. The idea of scrolling window manager instead of usual tiling window managers is following. When you create a new window, it appears on the right. Instead of rearranging the windows in your current screen, it just shifts your viewpoint to the side and creates new window without mutating the current layout of your windows. And it's quite handy because usually it's quite hard to predict how to place window correctly without breaking the layout too much and making it unusable. So it's better to do a bit of a mutable thing. We keep the previous layout and we just add a window on the side. And if person wants, it can move this window to the side to edit existing layout and put a window here. But if he doesn't, just use it on the side, finish with it and go back to the previous window. And to make this idea even further, for example, in my usual workflow, I have a few panes, usually 2 panes for my project. Usually I do 2 vertical panes and I switch back and forth between them. And sometimes it's like a bit hard to find a pane I'm interested in. So I came up with the following idea. What if we use the window manager for managing Emacs windows as well? So instead of using panes inside Emacs, we can spawn new windows and manage them with window manager. And there's a special mod, frame only mod. I guess it's called so. Oops, frame only mod. And what it allows to do, instead of spawning a new pane for some commands, it will be spawning a new frame or a new window. And as you can see, I called a Madrid and a new window appeared here. And now I want to see what changes I have. And I will open a div and it will be opened in a new window. When I finished watching this div, I just exit this div and go back to my previous layout. So we have a chronologically aligned series of windows, and the layout is always remains the same. Of course, we can edit it manually or whatever, but the idea is that we have immutable series of windows. Simon, please mute your microphone. Okay, thank you very much. So we have this series of windows and we can scroll to any point of our workflow and like work here and go back to the end of the workflow, rearrange them, and when we're finished with the window, we basically delete it. And the same happens. For example, here I have a few edits I know it, and I can jump between hunks. And you can see the hunk is getting updated in the side window. And when I finished like committing the hunks, I just close this window and go back to my previous layout. The tuning of the window manager is the behavior is a bit rigid because it's not that customizable as Emacs or some other, highly hackable environments. But still, it's good enough for the basics. It have a good gestures support, so I can use my touchpad. I can use the key bindings, and also it has a nice features like previews or overviews or whatever it's called. Um, so you can have a bit more dynamic environment and a bit more immutable environment, uh, which I found so far quite appealing. Of course, the window placement logics and ordering and the behavior of switching viewpoint uh, would be adjusted to my taste better. And Niri has IPC to do so. I'm not sure if it's like easy to do, but the overall idea about scrolling window manager, which doesn't modify your layout, but like adds new windows on the side, and you can decide later where you place them, is appealing to me so far. And I think this is the main point of my lightning talk. If you have questions, let's do a couple quick questions and we will go to the next lightning talk. Okay.
It looks very cool, I think.
Yeah.
I wish I could have this with my GNOME.
I think there's an extension called Paper VM or something, which does the similar thing to GNOME. It's a bit more restricted than Niri, but
Mm,
still available if you want to try this
okay,
approach.
thanks.
Yeah, and clickbaiting title for this lightning talk was, is Niri a new window manager, default window manager for RD? I'm still not sure yet. It definitely fixes a few bugs that were bothering me in Sway, and it definitely feels a bit more uh, featureful. So you have a better support for gestures and for uh, different types of layouts. And for example, if you want a manually to drag window, you have this nice borders and you have this cool overview. You have the same tabs, almost the same tabs as in Sway, and like all the functionality of Sway plus a scrolling approach, which is quite appealing to me so far. So feels like a good candidate for a default window manager in the future. Okay, hello Alexander. Nice to see you here. I think we will go to the next very important and very exciting talk by Noe.
Okay. Um, Hello, I'm Noe. So I've been doing the um, internship with RDE. It's over now, and it's like about 5 months. And yeah, it was about making a debugger, and it was really cool. So um, in the previous meetups, I've shown the meta command and the stack viewer that we've been doing, and some other improvements. So today, maybe we can do a little bit of that, but mostly we are going to show the next thing we've built, the last thing. for the internship, and it's nested evaluation. So when you get an error and you want to know, well, what happened, what went wrong, in RS you're gonna get not only the error but also the backtrace and the variables so that you can interact with them and really understand. So let me show this off right now. Okay, so no spoiler. I have a running instance of RS in the RS repository. So
Hello, this is Andrew from the future. I screwed up the recording of the audio, and that is why I will be explaining what Noe does in his demo. And let's see. A small preparation and removing spoilers from the output. And let's check that evaluation works correctly. 5 evaluates to 5 and empty list evaluates to empty list. Good. Let's eval two functions, end and work, and call work function with one argument, empty list, and we get an exception. And here you can see the stack viewer. You probably could see it on a previous meetup, and this is a foundation for our debugger. You can see very descriptive exception message, and the problem is a numerical overflow, which is kinda expected when you divide 12 by 0. And as usual, you can jump to the place of failure by clicking on the name of the function, and it will be jumping through all the files and through the places where the call happened. And of course, you can use hotkeys to do the same functionality. But in addition to that, the functionality you already saw in the previous streams and meetups, probably so, you can see the values of local variables near every stack frame. And this is useful. Useful for debugging because you can jump to the place in the code where the failure occurred, and you can check the value of the variables and try to evaluate in your mind and understand what has happened and get a better clue of how to solve the issue. But we did a pretty impressive thing here. We already have the information about the local variables. So why bother and force people to evaluate the expressions themselves? Can it be done in a more reasonable and convenient way? Yeah, the small note, to preserve the value of the local variables, you need to use them, because sometimes compiler optimization can strip them out. Okay, let's evaluate those two expressions. First one defines variable b with a value hello, and the second one is just a let binding, where we have a local binding for b variable and unbound variable a, and evaluating of this expression will throw the exception, of course, and will bring our stack viewer. And here you can see that variable b is obtained from lexical scope, and its value by, not hello as the top level binding for b, but the local binding for b. And that's good. That means our stuff kind of works. And let's define a function fun with one argument and call it passing a list of 3 symbols a, b, and c. And you can see that the problem happened here. Okay, and the problem happened with color function. And let's take a look at the values of b and a. let's eval those variables. And as you can see, instead of using a top level binding for b, it returns a value of a local variable inside the function, inside the point of failure, which is very useful when you're debugging what happened in your function. And now when we explored all the values of all the local variables inside this function, we can construct an expression which will access a proper variables and proper position in the list. And when we constructed the expression which returns the proper value, we just substitute our code with problems with our new code which produce the correct value. And here it is. Now let's check that new definition of the function works correctly. We left the nested evaluation, which was in the context of failure, and we evaluated our function and got the correct value.
So I hope I was clear. If you have any question, any thoughts, don't hesitate.
Here, I accidentally disabled sound in the recording for desktop sound instead of my mic. So it recorded
I
the noise outside, but not your speech. I
I
hope
don't worry. I
you
have the
have.
sound issue.
I really hope
Or
it
maybe
here.
not, but you can edit it later or something.
Uh, so my impression as usual, it's like very impressive. The stuff I visioned for years, even in Clojure, I think you don't have such capabilities. So in point of failure, instead of rerunning your computation, you can just like run a nested evaluation with all the local variables from the point of failure available, and like explore uh, what happened and how you can do better, and like explore the values. Very useful in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think it looks almost impossible for people programming in usual languages. Like, oh, how it even possible to do these things at runtime, and write parts of the code which evaluated in context of failed the function. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how much lines did it took? I'm sorry, was I had network problem at the beginning of at the middle of your talk. Maybe you showed the source code. It's probably even
Um,
about 200 lines.
to implement it, yeah, it was not so complicated. So with the refactoring work we did for the internship, it was pretty easy to like actually add it into Array. I think the most complex point was figuring out how to set custom bindings, right? We know the variables we want to set. How do we set them in the evaluation? And Enderl did something really cool. It was like duplicating the module and setting the binding. So it's went very well, but yeah, about 200 lines, maybe even less.
Yeah, the code which actually allows to evaluate in point of failure is not that big. Uh, but probably to make a correct implementation and complete implementation of such functionality, we will need to adjust some things in Guile. So right now it works to some degree, but because of optimizations and because of other things, it may not work in some other circumstances. So yeah, to make it,
Yeah, there's a lot of times where the variable is just disappeared, it was optimized out, or it was tailcode. So you don't always get the info, but
yes,
there's some tricks you can do to make it appear, right? Like when I did the series of lets in the example, well, it's not like it's used to make it appear, and you can also add PK or something, and just use the variable that it will update every time.
Yeah, one thing is like optimizations, and another thing that is related to continuations and other things. Uh, we may face some issues with it, I suppose, but we'll see. It's doable. At least we proved that it already works and it's already very useful. And implementing the rest is still a hard task, and making it reliable and working in all conditions. But I guess very doable. Okay. Any other questions? Talking about lines of code. Probably when we will finish implementation and we'll add, generic nested evaluation and this evaluation at point of failure, it will take some lines of code to finish this work. But you see, it already works. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, there's still some work to do, but I'm playing Hollow Knight still sound, so you will have to wait a little bit before it's done. Yeah.
Like priorities. Actually, work-life balance is very important. So yeah, uh, we do it in the right way. No burnouts, no other enterprise shit. Uh, okay, let's go to the next talk. The next talk. Oh, it's by me. It's about testing library. Let me share my screen again. And again, glittering, and lagging. Share screen sharing. I hope the sound is recorded, and you can still hear the destruction of the concrete nearby. Okay, this is my screen, and here you can see a few tests for my library for testing. We spent quite some time working on it, and we already have a working library, and we continue improving and extending its functionality. But so far, we almost settled on the definitions API, and if you take a look at the source code, it takes like 100 lines in total. The test definition API is very simple. It has a short macro, it has test macro, and it has suite macro. And that's basically it. With is, you can define a sort. For example, simple failing a sort, which has only value false. You can see the output of test reporter here. The test reporter, of course, customizable. This is a simple verbose test reporter that you will see in the future how it works in more complicated cases. But the sort macro takes the expression here and checks if the return value is false, the assertion fails. If it's some other value, the assertion passes. Let me find an example where it's true. For example, this one, very simple assert, which asserts that true is true. Not very interesting. Maybe we have something more exciting here. Let's see. This one. The expression 3 plus 4 is 7, and 7 is not false, so this assert pass. And you can see this check mark which indicates so. And here you have a comparison of two sets of values, and let's evaluate it, and you can see it also pass, and the return value of this assert is true, and the expression that we evaluated is this one. So good so far, but let's do something else. let's do this arithmetic expression. 4 equal 2 plus 2, and let's make it fail. And instead of 2 plus 2, we'll make it 2 plus 3. And you can see that now it fails. It shows x or whatever it means. And it says that 4 and 5 are not equal. And how it came to this, message. The idea is simple. We take the arguments, we evaluate and get values of arguments, and after that we take a predicate that was used to compare them, and we construct this message. So, despite the simplicity of this assert macro, the error reporting can be quite comprehensive and explains a lot of things about the failure already. But the interesting part will be at the end, where we will talk about integration with Guile Debugger. Okay, we figure out how asserts work, and now let's combine a few asserts into the test. And it's quite simple. We just use a test macro and specify the description of the test and put a list of asserts. Of course, it can be not just only asserts, but arbitrary code inside of tests, like this. And you can see inside this test we executed two asserts. First one here and second one here, and they both pass. This one allows to build tests, but you can actually apply them not only for testing your code, but also for developing your code. I will show you an example. You want to develop a function. I just come up with absolutely nonsense naming for the test. And here we have a function is fn 23 equals to 5, for example, right? And I evaluated this test, and you can see it produces an error, unbound variable fn, which is quite logical. Let's define the function fn, and let's return high, like this. And let's restart tests. You can see I didn't move the cursor anywhere. I just pressed Ctrl+C, Ctrl+T, Ctrl+T, and at the bottom you have a notification that there failed tests. One error, one assertion executed, and one test executed. So I restarted already existing test, and you can see the produced error message is different. Instead of unbound variable, it's a wrong number of arguments to procedure fn. Okay, let's make two arguments, x, y. And let's evaluate the function again, and let's restart the tests. Now, you can see it produced an error. Wrong type argument in position 1 high. That's an error about equal not being able to compare 5 and high. So it should be a number returned by this function. Let's return 3 and let's restart the test. And now you see another error message. 5 and 3 are not equal, which is already almost close to our actual implementation. The only thing that is left for us is to actually implement a fn function and return a proper value. And when I update the implementation of fn function and restart the test, now you can see the test passes. And now we can persist this test, or we can just throw it out because we used it for development and it performed its role. Now it can be either persisted or discarded. And I will discard it because I don't need this function and don't need this test. But it was a good, I think, demonstration of how you can use test not only for testing at the end of the development cycle, but for your actual development. And it also shows the power of interactivity of Lisp languages, and also it shows much more interactive test-driven development, where the feedback loop between running test and editing your code is just milliseconds instead of seconds, dozens of seconds or minutes in usual project where you need to recompile the whole stuff and restart and set the all the stateful things. Here you do it like immediately, and of course after that you would like to have multiple tests, and you can define multiple tests using suitbl. Uh, let's see some examples of suitbl. For example, here we have a hugely nested suite, and here you can see the hierarchy of the tests and nested test suites. So we have a top level test suite which contains a test which contains two asserts, and also the same suite contains another nested suite which contains one more test and one more assert. And here you can see this hierarchy printed. Of course, it can be printed a bit better, and I'm working on it already, but even this representation already tells you the structure and gives you some understanding. And of course, you can see the result of execution. And I can re-execute the same tests. And you can see here that the reporting differs. This one is more verbose. This one is simplified and straightforward. Uh, this is demonstration of flexibility of the test runner. You can specify a different test reporter for particular use cases. For example, the test reporter which integrated in Arei is different from the one which used by default and which can be useful in CLI and other things and should be more verbose. The one which I use for Arei RS integration is much simpler because, for example, if something fails, I will see the reporting at the bottom, and I can like show additional windows or whatever, or bring my debugger. So I don't need so verbose reporting as you probably would like to have in your CLI-based repo. Um, yeah, that's both the demonstration of flexibility, but also the reasoning behind a simpler and more straightforward reporting. Okay, and now we have our test, which contains assertions, and we combine those tests and test suites and build the hierarchy of test suites. Now, we have models for particular usage. For example, I have what I have. I have a suitable model which basically re-exports a few functions from different models and have some helper functions, but they don't do much things. But I know that there are corresponding tests for these models. So I have a suitable model, and I evaluate and update definitions of whatever. And I want to test that everything related to this model works correctly. I can load models tests for this model. At the bottom you can see test for model RS suitable are loaded. And here on the right you see the hierarchy of tests that was loaded for this model. The same thing I can do for definitions. For example, I have models for definitions, and I can load tests. Oops, what I did. I can load tests for RS suitable definitions. And you can see the hierarchy of tests for this model. And of course, I can run them. And at the bottom, you can see that 8 tests was executed, 23 assertions, and 0 failures and errors, which is very good. And here you can see the log of executed assertions and tests. And also, I can load all the tests for my projects, and you can see much bigger hierarchy of test suites is loaded here, and I can run them. And now 32 tests executed, 59 assertions, and so on and so forth. And if I update the implementation of something right now, the corresponding tests will fail. Would I like to do so? Probably no. You already saw how it works previously when we have the first few minutes of the demo. What also cool that we have the runtime representation for the tests, so I can implement, for example, interactive filtering for the tests. And I have a function array testing filter, and here I can filter all tests which has a runner in their name, and you can see only 3 tests filtered here. And I can save this filter and rerun only those tests. Also, because I have a runtime representation for the test, I can rerun only the previously failed tests instead of all tests, which is also handy because it reduces the amount of time needed for the execution of the tests, and it focuses on the already known problems. And when all the previously failing tests now passing, we can re-execute all the tests if we want. Yeah, and now the most exciting and interesting part. Are you still here? Just checking in case my internet went down or something, and I will be very upset if it happens and you didn't see what I'm talking about here. Thank you, Grigory, for letting me know that you are still here. Okay, the most exciting part. You probably saw that previously when we were doing a simple test-driven development team here, it was just a produced error thing here. Just output to stdout which shows the exception message, which is not that useful in complex scenarios when our test fails and a lot of local variables are important for understanding why it failed. And if you take a look like 10 or 15 minutes back in this video, you will see that when exception is thrown, we can get a stack frame. And inside this stack frame, we will have a local variables. And we can evaluate expression in the context of this stack frame. And the same thing we can make for our test runner. Instead of printing our exception to stdout, we can bring a debugger with nested evaluation. And when failure or exception happens, instead of manually printing or trying to recreate the environment, we will just reuse the already existing environment of a failed frame and evaluate our code here and see what values are and how we can make them work better, which is not done yet. But you can see our two projects will merge at some point in the future and will produce this synergy of very exciting Guile Debugger and interactive testing library, and will bring the interactivity development experience to the sky. That's it for today, and if you have any questions or comments, please ask.
Is it released already? Is it like is it the last? Is it the latest? I mean, is it done?
The latest and the greatest. It is working. It is committed to the Ares repository, and you can find it in Ares repository. But I still break API a bit, and I still do some cleanups and adjustments before I can finally, settle down that it's stable and you can use in your project. As you can see, I already have around 60 tests written for the library itself, and it works quite reliably so far. I guess the version that I would release to the public will be ready in a few more weeks, maybe 1.5 months. So it's almost ready. I just polishing up last things, breaking the last APIs, moving functions from one model to another, and just cleaning up the implementation. So it will be ready for the usage very soon, I hope. And you still use the development version from Arei's repository. It's already here, and the commits should be almost up to date, or maybe like a few days behind my local state. By the way, during the work on the library, I also cleaned up and updated the implementation of extension sorting, and I added the ability to specify which extensions, which unwrappable extensions or RS extensions I would like to wrap. I probably published it on RDE Devo, but now you can specify which extensions you wrap, and you can reduce the extensions down the stack and send them operations if you want, and rewrite the reply function so you can intercept what they reply to the client. It's more related to people who will be developing extensions, but still important feature.
Seems like we finally have usable testing library in Guile's team.
Suitable testing
Yes.
library. Yeah, actually, I was kind of inspired by usable browser, web browser name, and decided to call the library suitable. By the way, it turned out that it's test suite, not test suite. So now suitable library sounds not very suitable, but I think we will keep his name. It's still good. Okay. Any more questions about library or debugger or whatever in between? Good. So let's jump to the next topic. Very short one, but still important. You probably
Just
yeah.
before that, I have to go. I'm very sorry, but I have a meeting
Sure, no
on the other way
problems.
of town,
Sure, see
and
you.
yeah, sorry. But it was very cool. I really like the library, and I'm really positively surprised by just how quickly you can um, retry your code every time, and yeah, I'm excited to try it out, honestly. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming, and I'll send you the recording, Andrew, and bye bye.
Thank you very much, and see you. Okay, coming back to the documentation question. Diátaxis. There's a project called Diátaxis, or whatever it means, which is shared with us by Joseph. Thank you very much, Joseph. And it contains a quite systematic approach to writing the documentation. And what it basically suggests, you split your type of documentation in four things: tutorials, how-to guides, explanations, and reference. And you try not to mix them. And by just splitting them and trying to stick to one particular type for one document, uh, your documentation magically becomes a bit more structured and better implemented. And it sounds very promising. We still not tried it in the practice, but we already halfway here. The idea is that right now we have kind of mixed documentation in RDE manual, where we mix how-tos, with tutorials, with explanation, and with reference. And it seems a bit cumbersome. And this separation into four default types sounds very reasonable. And they have a background and, of course, some explanation of why this approach works. And I am very keen to try this approach. And the very actionable step that we have right now is to just start writing something. And the easiest thing to write, the less obstacles we have for now, is to make blog posts. And I myself would like to write a few blog posts, and I'm inviting you to write blog posts on the topic related to our projects. Uh, and share those blog posts with me. And after we gather a minimum viable number of blog posts, I don't know, like for example 10, let's say, we can start organizing them into wiki. When we get enough material and we understand that it's already lacking some structure and some one place where we can locate it, uh, I think we will deploy a Wikimedia or some other platform where we can collaboratively edit the stuff, and we will transfer those blog posts to this place, so it's better linked with each other, and you can like search for it. You can find cross references and other things. And yeah, so the first step is to start writing blog posts, decentralized, independent, whatever, trying to stick to the principles of Diátaxis. And after that, after we get a bit of content, we will gather it into one place in the wiki, so it's easier to explore, navigate, structure, and maintain. That's basically the idea of my last talk, and I invite you to help me with this task if you have time and desire. Thank you. Yes, what you would like to say? Nothing? You pressed it by mistake? Somehow I switched from... Oh, okay, I found the button. Here we go. Okay, so I will stop recording right here if you don't have anything to say publicly, and we will continue the discussion in our small cozy call. Oh, Grigory, before I stopped the recording, you had some updates on Wayland SCM experience, right?
Yes, yes. Um, well, okay, I will tell the whole story, and I will try to be as quick as possible because this like TCM library endeavors, they have some context. So about 4 years ago, I had an idea that it would be nice to have like global system-wide context of actions. Well, basically, it's about UI, UX, and how we use systems. But what I've noticed is the phones do this like already 10 years ago, since the first mm, uh, um, touchscreen phones came out. They understand when you click something, they understand, oh, here is a text input possibility. I will show you the virtual keyboard. So they have this like global context that here we are inputting text when we focused in some field, and they show you the keyboard, and the keyboards, they have some API. There can be like multiple providers, not only Google keyboards. And I thought, damn, it's so obvious. Why don't we do this on the desktops? Because I do use Emacs almost every day for the last 5 years, and I'm very far from mastering it. Like I'm not very good at it, not very good as Andrew, like maybe 10% of Andrew as greatness with Emacs. And I thought, and I just don't like the general context of it. I know there is Emacs everywhere, uh, but I don't like this idea that you have text editor, like a separate application where you should go to import text when I do type in browser in different browser forms and different other applications. So it should be text input system, and people were already very close to those systems. For example, for pinyin and Chinese, Japanese inputs, they kinda do have these abilities to backtrack and understand what's happening. It's almost there, I can say. Yeah. So and it was about 4 years ago, and then I kind of did it as my note, and then I wrote it to my org mode notes, like to do figure out if it is possible, and I left it for a year or so, and then I started to like little by little to read about it because I didn't had much time that year, and I figured out there is like Xorg and Wayland that do this thing that make these things possible. And I figured out that Wayland already has like a whole protocol for this, a separate protocol which basically gives you this uh, ability. But when I started to, and I understood that I need to learn a foreign function interface in Guile in order to call C Wayland functions and interact with it. And another year passed. I did a little. I also had a very little time. I did a little like maybe 100 lines of code FFI, like small draft, but it was super duper small. But then I found a guy, a Chinese guy, Z572, who is popular in Geeks community. Also, I don't remember his exact name.
Sorry for
I
interrupting, Grigory. Let's sum up the idea about the library and what we achieve, what we want to achieve with it. And let's discuss technical details after I stop recording, not to make recording too big.
Okay.
Let's sum up the idea about
Sure.
the thing
I
you
will
want
be
to
even
get.
shorter, even
Mhm.
shorter. So he started to write his library for Wayland. And I was like, oh my God, somebody is doing it already. He is much smarter guy, very good. But then I started using it and find out it's very well. I don't want to say bad things about that guy. He's definitely very smart, but I will not figure out what happened here. I couldn't. I spent a lot of time. I tried to like disassemble it, try to like make little functions out of like 10,000 lines function, but I couldn't. So I had a problem with it, and then I found another library called Wayland SCM, which I'm working with right now. It was developed by another anonymous guy on Codebek, um, and I packed, and he seems like he was using Gentoo, and he wrote multi-scheme library, like for Guile scheme, for chicken, and for some else. And it was not packed in Gix. I packed it in Gix, so it's available for installation in my Codeberg account. And I sent him few issues. He closed that issue that I sent, and then what happened? He deleted his account, so there is no. He didn't have an account on Codeberg. I can't connect with him. He didn't leave his email anywhere. He didn't leave any info. Yeah. So and I left with that library. I started using it. I figured out it's not yet fully support all the Wayland things, it was deliberately left one part in Valence. There is like new ID. Those some methods, some events, they can well, anyway, it won't support all events of the Wayland. I need to extend it for it. And that library, it's very small, it's very good, it's looking like very nice. It doesn't generate code with macroses, it just generates it as strings, writes to file, and then loads and reads this file. Because Chinese guy, he did it with macroses. Um, and it's much more simple, but it didn't support this one little thing. You may like use maybe a 50% of Wayland functionality with it. Yeah. So now I'm working to extend it and to make it possible.
Okay, cool. So I will sum up what you were saying. We have a lot of places where we would like to edit text, and we would like to do it in uniform way, the same way in browser, same way in your code editor, same way in your instant messenger and email client. And for this, we unfortunately can use Emacs because it does things inside out. It tries to pack every application inside itself. But we want to be able to use the same text editing capabilities in any different application outside of Emacs. And for this, we need a Wayland library. And there was one Wayland library which is not very reliable and featureful. And there's another Wayland library which disappeared at some point, but luckily you have a backup, and probably you posted it somewhere already. And now we have a project, I guess it's called Hatis, right?
Hatis is on, yeah. Excuse me, I didn't mention the very important part. The Chinese guys library, it uses heavily C lang incastations, and it fails with SIG-SEG uh, on some events. And I opened the issue. I told him about it, but he didn't. He said, "Yes, there is a problem with the scanner that builds the code from XML with macroses. Like it reads XML file and it builds Guile code with macros, and there is problem somewhere." So he like admitted this, but it didn't change since then, a year ago or so. Yeah, so that's the main problem. It's like it's not unreliable. It just fails with 6seg,
Okay.
and you can't trace. I tried with GDB and stuff, but I couldn't figure out how to properly trace it. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't write it because the code is well, for me it's messy. I can't figure it out. Yeah.
Okay, so you switched already to the new library or not yet?
No, I'm this the new library is on my well, now it's my on my CodeGet because the
Okay.
original author removed it, and it's open right now, and you can see the work I'm doing. There is a branch called Geeks, which is Geeks package, with where I packed it in Geeks, and you can use it right now, but it won't work with some Wayland interfaces.
Okay, so you have a Hatis project which based on the previous library by Chinese guys, and you have a new library which you are working on right now, and
Yeah, I'm trying to fix it.
you plan to migrate Hatis to this new library, right?
Well, at first I'm trying to fix this Wayland SCM library. Right now I'm working in a branch called Top Level, where I'm trying to fix it to make it work with all events. Yeah. Um,
Okay,
And
and after you finish, you will be able to migrate Hatis to this library.
yeah, during my endeavors, I found out that there is a common Lisp library for Wayland that's very good and it's working and it's tested. I sent few issues to the author. He's from California, so I don't remember exactly,
So, sorry
but
for
he
interrupting, Grigory. A bit too much context, probably not
okay.
related to many people. Let's discuss it afterwards. Let's
Yes, I just
wrap up.
I wanted to say that right now I can continue my work in Common Lisp. It won't
Okay.
there won't be a problem to do all of this in Common Lisp, except for I don't want to spawn lists all around. I want to configure all system in Guile scheme. Yeah, I really like scheme. I also really like Common Lisp, but I just don't like this inconsistency that I'm
Okay.
bringing to the function.
Okay. So, as I understand, now you are improving Wayland SCM testing,
Yes.
not testing, Wayland
Maybe
library.
testing too. Maybe later.
And after that, you will continue your Hatis project on top of this
Yes,
library.
this is what I. This is perfect case scenario. If I will be able to figure this out, and if
Cool.
I won't, I afraid I will have to come back to common list.
Okay, cool. So, if somebody wants to help with developing Wayland library, please join Grigory's Codberg and send pull request and collaborate somehow. And if you are interested in the idea of unification text and input interface in all applications in your operating system and Wayland compositor, please help and collaborate on Hatis project of Grigory. And on this cool point, I will stop the recording so people can watch all our lightning talks and enjoy all the cool stuff that we are working on. And we will continue our discussion in private. Yay!